What's up, family? Thank you for joining us today. Last week, we talked of building healthy relationships in a temporary home, and our guest, Cynthia Gichiri, took us through that. Have you ever found yourself in a temporary home?
Yes, I did. I lost my mom at around age 12.
Okay.
Yeah, and my mom was a single parent. So when she died, my two siblings and I, we had to shift from where we used to live with her to live with her parents, my maternal grandparents. So that was our first home. I wouldn't call it a temporary home because it has been home for us since that time. But now, as I was transitioning, because at that time I was in class 6, there was high school, there was college. So between those periods of my life, I now had to live with other relatives. Now not my maternal grandparents, but also with other relatives, their cousins, their children. So I would say my grandparents' home was kind of a permanent home for us.
All right.
But now living with the other relatives, that was like a temporary home.
All right.
Yeah.
Please join us again today as we continue with the same discussion. My name is Kakaniko, and this is the Ball Session. You mentioned house chores as one of the challenges that you faced. What are some of the challenges that you can say you also went through in a temporary home, as per se?
One of the challenge that I would face was a lack of understanding. Sometimes you have house chores, but you've come home with assignments, and it's not just one subject. I did 9 subjects in high school, both the 3 sciences, 2 humanities, and now the languages. They totaled up to 9. And an option which was music, which was hell on earth.
Okay.
I would say. And also remember, in high school, subjects like mathematics and chemistry also needed you to put in a lot of time to study. So you've come home, probably you have an assignment in physics, mathematics. There was never a day that we ever went home without a mathematics assignment. There is English literature. I think our teacher really loved us, working from home. There was a lot of literature to do, and there were notes and all those things. And you still have to like set apart your own time for study, for preparation for your national exam, because that was basically the essence of school. Like, when you get into Form 1, and at the end of 4 years, you still have to do some exams. So, like now, you have work from school. As I told you earlier, I used to also play basketball. There's training, you're tired, and there's these house chores that are waiting for you. That was the biggest challenge for me. Like you have to do laundry sometimes, you have to clean, and maybe you do not even have time for yourself. So that was a big challenge for me. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And now you can't tell them to help.
You can't.
And you do not know if you tell them how they will take it. That one used to be a real challenge for me. And now, because I was, I needed that space to be able to study. Sometimes it would override my studies, and it would even affect my performance in school. Yes.
Wow. So just looking at the whole thing and the whole story, and like you mentioned that you were young then when your mom passed, and that led to you finding yourself in a temporary home like you have talked about. What are these things you can look back and say, if you would have done, would have made your stay in those homes more enjoyable?
My biggest wish, to be honest, I wish I went to a boarding school.
Okay.
In a boarding school, it's just school, nothing else. Probably the only duty you're supposed to do is clean your dorm, or wash your uniform, just that. For me, I really wish I had considered going to boarding school, because if there was a casualty during that time of that season in my life, was my studies.
Okay.
Yes, because there's a time I was actually sent home for school fees, and because those days there were no mobile phones, I couldn't tell my grandparents that I've been chased home for school fees. So I ended up staying at home for a very long time, and that really affected my performance in mathematics, because like when you got to Form 2, I don't know if you noticed, there was one formula that was applicable in all other problems,
Which formula?
the integers.
Oh.
Actually, you remember, integers and kina cos theta, sin theta, those ones.
Okay.
Actually, they were like Greek to me, because now you see, the teacher can't go back 2 weeks into what she did 2 weeks ago. You understand?
Yeah.
So that kind of, it made me lose my bearing in mathematics. Almost the same problem also in physics and in chemistry, and those were like my favorite subjects. So I realized that, hey, I'm also gonna need maybe to change my career line, because while in high school I wanted to be a lawyer.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I wanted to be a lawyer, and we had already gone through those processes. I thank God that we used to have mentors, guys who had been there before, and who are doing well. I remember we got to meet a lady called Lucy Rao. She was an engineer, but then she dropped out. She started her own fashion house called Rialto Fashions.
Okay.
So, like, if you listen to her, what she was doing in school, you want to be like that person, but then you realize, oops, you have already lost your bearing in these major subjects. So that is when now I decided, if I'm not going to make it into law school, I'm going to study journalism. Yes.
Wow.
But for me, I would say, if there's something I would have changed, I really wished
You would have gone
I
to
would have gone into a boarding
school.
Yes.
And growing in that house as a young girl, they have their part to play as a guardian. But I think also we have our parts to play as young people living with our guardians. What are these things you can look back and say, if you would have done, would have enhanced your relationship, that you maybe think, here I didn't play my part that well. If I would have done this, would have made our relationship more better.
Maybe probably drop some of my co-curricular activities.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because, but actually it was only one. It was only basketball. It was very involving. Sometimes I would be away for the weekend. We have usually during the first term, there are usually so many ball games, so many tournaments. First term there was Lenana opens. From Lenana, the next weekend we'd come to Nakuru High. Then the next weekend we go to Eldoret. From Eldoret, now we are back to do the zonals up to the national levels.
And would participate.
That's a whole term. In second term, there was Madaraka Day Cup. That one was less involving. Then third term we had Roslyn and RVA Cup. You see, and you have to prepare for and the Moi Day Cup. You have to prepare for those tournaments, because we had to win. We had a name to protect. So for me, I think that really took my time. And sometimes I would go home with injuries, and injuries mean you do not get to do your house chores. So that would kind of create a misunderstanding. So maybe if there's something I would have done different, probably dropped basketball. But then again, I don't know what life would have been like, because also during that season, I was also able to form great bonds, because the girls we used to play with in the same team, they are still my sisters. More than 10 years later, they are still my sisters. Yes. Just to mention another thing,
Okay.
I wish my faith in God was stronger.
That time.
Yeah, I wish it was stronger that time.
Okay.
Yeah, funny enough, I didn't like God that time. I don't know why, but he wasn't very appealing to me. Yeah, because you see, as a teenager, you're also questioning some things. So he wasn't that appealing to me. Sometimes I would even ask him, okay, so how does this happen? And your God, how do you even associate with, Yeah, so I really wish that I never got to that level where I kind of don't like God, or I dislike him, or I disagree with him. I really wish I had a relationship with him at that time, because it would have helped me cope with a lot of things that I was going through. Yes.
Wow. So in summary, to that young man, to that young lady who is watching, how can you advise them on building healthy relationships in a temporary home if they find themselves living with a guardian, or an aunt, uncle, a relative? How can they make their stay in that home comfortable?
Okay.
Yes.
I think the most important thing is to understand who you are and where you're coming from. Because the problem with young people is that we want to be like other people, If life circumstances have forced you to live in a temporary home, it also carries with it also understanding where you're going. You're growing, number one. So it does not mean that because you're living with either, it could be foster parents, it could be a guardian, or it could be relatives. It doesn't mean that you're stuck with them forever.
Yeah.
So understand that it is a point of transition for you, and make the best use of that point. How do you make the best use of that place that you're living? Respect the people you're living with, because they have their own set of rules. You cannot go partying at night when you're living with a guardian who is, let's say, a pastor. Even if they're not a pastor, even if they're not religious, you need to respect the rules of their house. That is number 2. Number 3, you also need to make a contribution to that home. Not many people can allow you to eat and sleep in their home freely, And even if they're doing it freely, you also need to show them that you can be useful in that house. And number 4, don't complain. Don't complain, don't rebel. It will work against you, I promise. Because even the word of God tells us to obey our parents. They may not be our parents, but at that particular time, they are playing the role of our parents. So be obedient. If they tell you, I don't want to see you with so and so, remember, keyword here, it's temporary.
Yeah.
One day you will grow up. Like for me, I really thank God that I was able to live with these relatives. And I used to tell myself, I'm here because I need to finish high school, So that would make me really aware. Even if I do a mistake, I make a mistake, I'm able to correct it. And also learn to also apologize. Even for, sometimes you may be told something, if not, just apologize. It won't take away anything from you. Because remember, keyword here is, it's temporary. You're going to grow. You're going to own your own home. You're going to even host people later in life. And you would want these people to also respect you, to respect the rules of your house. And if you encounter abuse in a temporary home, you also don't have to live there.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Because as we can see in our media, we are having an upsurge of teenage pregnancies, and some of these happen in their home setting. So if it gets to a point where your guardian or your relative is abusing you, it could be physically, it could be emotionally, it could be sexually, please move out. There will always be an alternative, because if you condone that abuse, it will actually work against you in future. You will now have to now get into adulthood nursing wounds that you suffered in your childhood. And that can be a trend now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if it gets abusive, walk out.
Walk out.
Yes.
You got it. Again, we say thank you for being part of this family, supporting us and encouraging us. We continue to urge you to like, share, and subscribe, and the Lord will bless us together. My name is Kakaniko, and this was the Ball Session.